Leon, what what an absolute pleasure to be sitting in front of you today.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's also a great pleasure for me.
Thank you so much. I actually want to say to you that I've met you before. Many moons ago.
Yeah.
20 years ago it must have been. I was still in school. I had just arrived in Joburg from KZN and I was trying out in this film space. And I got a role in Mr. Bones as one of the featured extras.
Really?
And we were shooting in Paris. It was one of the best times of my life.
Yeah, it was great, man.
Was a great introduction into the TV and film space.
Absolutely.
Working on such a big production, Mr. Bones, at the time.
It was a big production.
It was huge.
For South Africa.
For South Africa.
In Hollywood terms, it was karafufel.
And in fact, I think you're one of the first few people to start bringing in international actors, which was huge for us as well.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, as a student, the money that I earned from that production went such a long way.
Ah, fantastic. I'm glad that a movie of mine helped you on your way. I'm proud of that.
Thank you. So let's start with you and your journey and getting into the industry. What inspired you to get into the arts industry? And of course, to stay so long.
Yeah, it's been a long journey. You know, ever since I was that big, I wanted to become an actor, but there was no money. We lived in a suburb in Bloemfontein, which was a below average suburb. Unfortunately, and I love him dearly, may God bless him, my dad got involved with gambling on horses, racehorses. And that's where our money went to, you know. There was nothing. And I said, I've got to get a career, find a career. I can't be a doctor. I don't like maths and science and those subjects. I like languages, studied German, Afrikaans and English. Since I can remember, which was a very, very young age of 4 or 5, I was into movies big time. I wanted to become an actor. We had a theater in Bloemfontein in those days called the Ritz Theater in Maitland Street. And Saturday for Saturday, my dad dropped me there, or I took my bicycle and I went to see the Marx Brothers, Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, Laurel, and all comedy stuff. I loved it. I fell in love with it. But my big idol was Jamie Ace. He was just a born filmmaker, you know. He made the most wonderful movies. Wasn't really big slapstick events, but it was nice stories. So I always said that's where I want to go in my life, is where Jamie Ace went. My brother had a 16mm camera and I would pull my pranks. And he would hide away filming them. For example, one that stands out. I would take my mom's pantyhose, cut it off wherever, then fill it with little pieces of rag until I had a snake. And I manipulated it to look like a snake, and I even painted a snake's face with my mom's makeup. And then by dusk, I would tie a piece of gut to the snake's head, and put the snake that side of the pavement, and I would hide behind the fence. And as people approached, I pulled the snake, and I had such fun, and my boot was filming this. We killed ourselves, you know. We had our own little screen where we watched the stuff on, and that's maybe my fetish with snakes.
Yes.
I love scaring people with snakes.
I have to tell you, one of my best pranks that you've ever pulled is the snake one. I think it was the 2 Cape Town guys, and you pulled a snake prank on them. It's our favorite with my kids. I love that snake prank.
It's one of my favorites too. You come here to die.
Yes.
Yeah, you should have come yesterday. And they go,
That's the one. I love them climbing up the ceiling. I'm like, where are you going?
Oh, we had fun that day, I'll tell you. And that's the beauty of filming events spontaneously, not setting them up or having a script. I never had a script that I worked from. I was a born prankster. That's it. I was nothing else but a prankster. And then I saw, Schuster, you can act. So you can become an actor, you know. But my boot was playing for the university's first rugby team, the Shimlers. And I got a bursary to go and study to become a teacher. And one day I went to him and I was very scared of him. He's much bigger than I am, and he actually took the part of my father to a great extent. I said, Buti, I want to go and study drama and not teaching. I don't want to be a teacher. And he said, listen here, there's only one male student in the drama class. So I ended up studying to become a teacher, and I hated it. I wanted to act.
So you followed your heart.
I followed my heart, and I was there for 2 years. I had to have a minimum period of teaching of 2 years to work off my bursary that the educational department gave me. And then I got a job at the SABC. That is actually where my career got started. Telephone prank program called Die Vrypostige Microfoon, which means the cheeky microphone.
Okay.
And I phoned the whole world. And one
Who's
day
the whole world? Were there famous people in there?
Yeah, many famous people. It was Afrikaans, unfortunately, so I couldn't do English. English was not allowed on the Afrikaans radio station. And my boss discovered this tape on which I recorded these, as I call them, victims. And he said, Leon, this is fantastic. Let's make a program out of this. And then Die Vrypostige Microfoon was born. I did, I think, 13 series of that over a whole year and a half. And it was immensely popular.
Fantastic. Did you get into acting thinking you would make money as an actor or as a comedian? Was it a thing back then?
You know, everybody told me that was in the arts, said, listen, it's not a place where you're going to get rich. You work your butt off, but you're not going to make a lot of money. Today, people think Leon Schuster is a very, very wealthy man, and I'm not. Maybe because I didn't entertain my career as well as I should have. Whenever I was writing the last few pages of the movie, somebody would come in and say, sign the contract. I said, get the bloody contract away. I don't want contracts. Just pay me whatever you think. Just give me chance to complete my movie. Finally, I signed the contract, and when payday came, I saw, hell, what did I do here? They just decided this is what we're going to pay Leon. It was meager. It wasn't big money. For You Must Be Joking, my very first movie, I got a fee. That is for 6 weeks work. I got a fee of 20,000 rand. And one day I was walking down the aisle and I heard voices, and I peeked around the corner, and there was a guy with a dark blue Mercedes-Benz overall with a logo on his pocket. And he said, here's your keys for your brand new Mercedes-Benz. And I thought, shucks, how is this possible? I was the man behind the movie. I created the movie. And now he's getting a new Mercedes. I'm not even getting a rally bicycle, you know. I got quite good fees for the movies, but I never got anything from the back end. That went to the producer and the executive producer.
Do you think that was one of your biggest mistakes, that you weren't involved in, you know, understanding the nitty-gritties of the contract? Because I think that's an important conversation, because this is where we find ourselves, where we are either misinformed, ill-informed, or uninformed, because we don't read contracts. We are not equipped to,
you know, definitely.
So,
you're speaking absolute truth now, you know. I didn't care about. Nowadays, I'm careful. Also, not just nowadays, a few years back, I decided, you're getting old now. Read your contracts, get the best fee that you possibly can, and try to get part of the back end, which is the profit of the movie, which I never had. Mr. Bones was the movie at that time that did the best ever for a local movie in South Africa. And you won't believe me, I got a good fee, I must admit that. But I put half that fee I invested back into the movie, and I never saw any return on my investment. And once again, I was not I was not in for the back end. That belonged to the Mercedes Benz and the Porsche Cayenne guys. To this day, I really regret the fact that I didn't read my contract. And I want to tell young people, read the contract. If you're doing something in the arts, make sure about that contract. Get yourself a broker to read that contract and to help you, which I never did. So that was a great downer in my career for me.
You're talking already about some of the mistakes that you've made before. You spoke a little bit about your upbringing, spoke about your dad and how he was a gambler.
Yeah.
And how that affected you and the livelihood at home. How was your attitude towards money growing up? Experiencing all the things that you are talking about that you experienced in the industry,
Yeah.
right? The mistakes, the pitfalls, the challenges, the triumphs, the wins, the losses. How did your attitude change? How did it evolve? And where's your attitude now about money?
You know, my mom, I loved my mom dearly. She was a wonderful, godly woman. I always said, Mom, you just need angels and you can fly to heaven. She taught me one basic, important lesson in my life. She said, take a penny and turn it around 1,000 times before you spend it. You know why she said? Because there was no money. And then that put something into my head about saving. And every cent, I sold the local newspaper on the corner, the Volksblad, and I got some lekker change for that. I went to the retirement village just down the street from us, and I knocked on the door, and the oom would open and say, yes. I said, listen, I'm looking for a peace job. He said, but you're 12 years old. I said, just release me into your garden and check. And so I would do that and do it well. And then word got around the retirement village that there's a little boy here that's a bloody good gardener. You can employ him on my recommendation. And I made quite a lot of money, which I put in a canned fruit jar, which was my piggy bank, but I couldn't afford a piggy bank. And I kept on putting the money in there, putting the money in there, putting the money in there. My mom was exceptionally proud of me because in small instances I helped to pay the debt that my dad had made. I must tell you this story. One day there was a knock at the door, and this was a man who wore a black suit, a white shirt, and a purple tie. I'll never forget that incident. He said, my boy, we are here to come and take your furniture. And I started crying. I said, please don't do that, please. My mom was lying in bed with this cold face cloth over her eyes. She didn't want me to see her eyes because they were bloodshot red from crying, you know. And I went to fetch my piggy bank jar. And I said, there's about 5 to 6 pounds in here, so you can take this, but don't take our furniture and stuff. And all of a sudden, this very harsh expression on his face changed into one of pity. He pitied this little boy that was trying so hard. He said, you know what? I'm not going to take anything. I don't want your jar. But tell your dad, if by the end of this month he hasn't paid his debt, we are definitely going to take away your furniture and your stuff.
I'm getting so emotional as you speak about this because the experience of somebody coming into your home and threatening to take furniture was something that I remember going through as a child. Somebody coming to our home to take furniture for a debt that was owed.
Yes, right? Can you believe?
And it's such an embarrassing experience for somebody
absolutely
who's a child, right? Watching this and feeling helpless because there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
I know this is supposed to be a candid conversation, but I'm already getting so emotional. I think we maybe come from a place of taking for granted that just because we come from different ethnic backgrounds, that you've had it easier in life than I have. As somebody who's an African person in this country, right? But this conversation is also helping me cement a few things in my head that maybe we're not so far off, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
How has culture contributed to your attitude towards money, your culture?
My mom grew up in the Karoo, in Beaufort, outside Beaufort West, and I had two uncles there that were merino farmers, out 70, 80 kilos outside of Beaufort West. And I spent most of my holidays there, and that's where I got to know about the culture of money. Because both these uncles, my mom's two brothers, youngest and elder one, they were extremely rich farmers, you know, but they didn't think about stuff like investing, like today, investing in a little property. That's the environment that I grew up into, and I told myself in my lifetime, I'm definitely not going to go the route that my youngest uncle went, just to want more and more and more and more. When I asked him once, asked my the elder brother, I said, why don't you invest in property, like buying a little flat or something? He said, because you can't eat bricks, but you can eat bread. And that stuck with me. It was on par with what my mom had taught me in that culture. My mom had said, listen, forget, even if you have got the money, forget investing, because that was the last thing on her mind. Survival. But the way your parents brought you up, that's the way you're going to be for the rest of your life. Humble. We were taught to be humble because poor people have to be humble. They don't have a choice. Look at the guys standing at the traffic lights, how humble they are. They don't have a choice because they need money to live.
But something must have shifted in you, because you don't strike me as somebody who doesn't invest. You do invest. So even though that was drilled into you that you can't eat bricks, and the attitude towards money was one of survival, when do you think that shift happened for you, where you started to see money differently?
You know, I went to a doctor one day who was actually at school with me. He was a urologist, and I had a problem with my very important gland, my prostate gland.
And why is that important?
He was very, very wealthy. And I said, this is a long time ago. We were school friends as well. I said, how do you make your money? Because you live in Eagle Canyon, you've got this magnificent house. He said, you know what? Every year since 19 whatever, I told myself, every year I'm going to buy myself one little townhouse, not more than 1.52 million. He says, and every year I did that. Do you know how many houses or townhouses I have now? 19.
Wow.
And I rent them all out to people, and I get that income. So the day I retire, I don't have to touch my investment that my broker did for me. That's a lesson I never learned. And it is because of the way that I was brought up. Nobody in my immediate family said, remember one day you must invest.
You know, having gone through all of these life experiences and this financial journey, as we call it, what is it that you're teaching your kids differently?
Okay, firstly, I'll tell you what I didn't teach and tell them.
Okay.
I never told them to come and be in my industry, the film industry. I said, listen, it's hard work. It's terribly wrong hours. So they didn't go that route because I advised them it's not secure enough.
So what was the lesson that was imparted? I know that they went into different industries, but what do you think was the key financial lesson that you imparted on them?
I helped them when there was a crisis, but I told them always, don't come to me for money. Go and work for your money.
I look at you, you're right bang in the middle of your retirement age.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And not many of us can go back to our retired parents and ask for help. So what is it that you did differently?
You know, I'm going to tell you a very interesting story now. I've got a very, very good broker who's also a friend of mine. And he invests my little pension money that I've built up over the years. I could have easily had nothing today if I had been a spendthrift. The only thing I spent too much money on was on cars. That was my weak point. And now I'm finished. I'm driving a BMW X5. I'm not going to buy cars anymore.
It's still beautiful. It looks beautiful.
They are beautiful. And I said, you got to look after my money. And I phone him every week. I said, where is the rand? Where is my investment? Is it still solid? And he keeps on telling me, Leon, you have to start spending your money. Go to Venice, go to the Bahamas on a cruise liner. But stop. I said, listen, man, I would definitely, but I don't have a lady in my life at this point in time. How's it going to look if I sit on the cruiser with my lager whiskey? I say, where's your girlfriend? I don't have a girlfriend. You know?
But that's your girlfriend. Your whiskey is your girlfriend.
Yeah. Whiskey and black coffee. And then work carefully with your money and do what I said earlier. At a young age, if you can afford it, start investing in property. Property will always give you a better growth unless this whole country fades completely, disappears in oblivion. But those things, saving your money, not spending at will, and having a good broker, and not buying branded clothing.
So, Leon, we asked you to please share with us a token or something that symbolizes or represents a good moment in your financial journey, and maybe share a little bit of a story about it as to why this is so important.
Okay. What I'm going to show you is not what I bought. It's something that I got after my 2010 movie Shabalala Survival Guide to South Africa, which did very, very well at the box office. Sterkinikor gave me this fantastic dinner in a fantastic location, and then handed me this, which is my most precious possession. Maybe because it is so meaningful. It is. I used to wear caps. I still wear them nowadays, but they asked me for my favorite cap, and they silver plated it and mounted it on this beautiful, beautiful mounting. So yeah, there you see Schuster, Sterkinikor for 20.
I'll read that because I think it's important.
Okay.
The Sterkinikor Achievement Award, presented with thanks to Leon Schuster for his extraordinary contribution to Sterkinikor Theatres, 1808-2010. Woo!
Yeah, that's which they've given me a check of 2 million. People walk into my my TV room, they always gawk at this thing. They say it is so original. So thank you, Sterkinikor. Thank you. Hey.
It really speaks to the wealth of the legacy that you have
created.
created.
No, this one tells it all.
Thank you, Leon, for inviting us into your home, and thank
you
for this.
It's a great pleasure. You fellows were fantastic, and I really had a lekker interview. I enjoyed it. Going back, and I don't normally talk about money because I know so little about it, but today suddenly I became quite wise.
Thank you so much. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ayanda Umangubane Wagaboroto. And of course, I'm sitting here with the legendary Leon Schuster. What an honor. What an absolute honor to be sitting with him today and just have him here to drop those pearls of wisdom. And I certainly got, certainly a few lessons that I learned myself. This is Coffee Conversations with Momentum Corporate. Do follow us on our social media pages and continue to catch the conversation, but also continue to have the conversation within your families, with your friends, with your colleagues in your workspaces. Let's talk about these things, guys. Let's talk about imali, financial matters. Sikhuluma ukuthi ikhiphani into kwenzakalani ngendaba zeimali. Zihlelekile na noma ziyakhala.
Thank you. This was a very eventful afternoon and I enjoyed it.